There's gotta be a morning after. This is Felicity Was Here. Welcome back to Felicity Was Here. I'm Heather.
I'm Melissa.
And I'm Dr. Joe.
Today we're discussing Felicity Season 2, Episode 16, Revolutions. Hello, ladies. How's everyone doing?
Fabulous.
Hi.
Fabulous. Fantastic. Amazing. Yeah, it's officially summer, which is wonderful. Although I don't get a summer vacation, but Melissa, you do. It's exciting.
Guys, it's fantastic. I've never not had a summer vacation, so it would be so weird to me to have an office job in the summertime.
I have adopted summer Fridays though, or I try to do them whenever I can, which is sometimes like a half day, or I'll work from somewhere, mostly Disneyland, in the morning, and then I'll just go on rides and do fun stuff the rest of the afternoon. But some of my clients do summer Fridays, so I try and do them when they're
That's
off.
Summery.
Yeah, I'm off every Friday, so I guess it balances it out.
So do you work weekends?
Wow.
Oh, okay.
I barely work the 4 days I work.
Oh, man. So today, let's start with some listener mail. We've got an email from Jamie again. So here are her thoughts. The last couple of episodes that we've had. She said, so let's start with Great Expectations. It was a big episode for me as it was the episode that made me Team Ben. And I wanted to know if there's an episode or moment in the series that made you decide if you were Team Ben or Noel.
I don't think so. It was always Ben. I don't know. Between the two of them, it would, Noel being a lying liar and gross kind of, never Noel. Hashtag never Noel.
Never Noel.
Oh, obviously I liked Ben from the beginning, but I think the end of this season, season 2, was where I was really smitten with him just because of his character growth. We got to know him better. We got to see him and Felicity actually have a deeper relationship versus just this flirtation at the end of season 1. So this kind of end of the season with I don't want to spoil it, but I guess I will, with the little movie rooftop thing, that kind of just cemented everything for me. I'm he's awesome. And I know he makes a lot more mistakes in the future seasons, but
they're all human.
I was Team Ben for sure from that moment on.
As a child when this came out, I think I was Team Noel pretty much from the pilot as well. He was just more the nerdy type that I was into as a kid. Ben was the popular guy that wouldn't have given me the time of day. So I think that's why I was into Noel. And I loved the big speech from Noel at the end of the pilot too, of stay in New York or perish, that whole thing. And him and the boggle scene I loved, obviously. But yeah, being an adult now, looking back, having rewatched the series so many times, I at least understand now the Team Ben point of view, where I get it, I get the arc and all of that. So if I'm just talking about when it first show came out, that, yeah, I was Team Noel pretty much from the pilot. But now that I've gotten older, I can see why there were Team Ben people too. So now on to her other comments. So now on to The Slump, which I think is one of the best written and acted episodes of the series. However, it is hard to watch. So I wanted to ask, after watching this episode and learning more about the dynamic Felicity has with her parents and the role she played in her family, does Felicity's reactions to her father coming back with her to school and wanting to spend so much time with her make a little more sense to you? It was interesting to hear your thoughts about it when you reviewed the episode. I didn't necessarily agree with you that Felicity was being an asshole for not wanting her father to move to New York, or him visiting her multiple times a day. I had a completely different perspective, but maybe because I have a similar family situation to Felicity's, so her reactions to her father made a lot of sense to me, and honestly would probably be how I would react to my parents, even now at almost 42 years old. One final thing was, I the only one that wanted Ben and Felicity to drop out together and go backpacking across Europe. That is a spinoff I would have loved to have seen.
That should have been the second summer book.
Yes,
yeah, right?
I was going to say, that's a summer novel
That
right there, although
perfect.
it would be semester 2 novel instead of summer. But so yeah, how have your opinions changed, if at all, after reviewing that episode and seeing where she came from with her family?
I've already forgotten everything that happened in that episode.
Well, I had actually replied to Jamie back when she wrote this. Yes, my opinions did soften. I can't relate to her in almost any way other than her finding Ben hot. That's probably our only common ground. So it's hard for me to relate to her. Just like she's privileged and I was not growing up, and my parents were not involved at all. Like not like straight up like abusive, neglectful, but just not involved. So it's hard to see somebody receive that and reject it, because that would have been cool if I had more of that. But as I've said many times, anything in an extreme is going to be unhealthy or problematic. So if it's an extreme on either side, then yeah, it's going to be, somebody's going to have a strong reaction to it. So if she felt flooded by their behaviors, her parents, and overwhelmed, and I get that. It's just really, 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 really hard for me to relate to. But I do understand it more now.
Yeah, I think at the time I did say she was being an asshole. I think it's because she was going a little over the top with everything on not wanting to be around him. Look, I can understand if she wouldn't want her parents to both move to New York, as she was saying, Mom's going to want to do Tuesday dinners again. Like, I understand her not wanting to go back to this routine of being back home in Palo Alto and at Stanford. Like, she moved to New York for a reason. And clearly it was, to get away from this, being
Dynamic.
the person in the middle and the dynamic in the family. But still, I don't think it's such a terrible thing that your dad, like, drops by a coffee shop and wants to buy you dinner once in a while. Like, it just, that didn't seem like he was that overbearing in that episode.
Yeah.
Again, given their greater history, it makes sense. But I think she was being kind of a jerk in that episode.
Yeah.
Yes, I stand by that. I do think she was an asshole, but I don't feel as mad about it now.
There you go.
All right, we'll first recap last week. So last time, Felicity found out that Dr. Porter quit his job at the hospital and is probably depressed about his separation with Barbara. Ben also decided to tell Felicity that he is ready to date her, but he saw her getting closer to Greg and chickened out. Noel also told Ruby that he wants to be just her friend, not more than that, as she goes through her pregnancy. And Elena agreed to go out with her sexy new lab partner, Tracy. So, episode 16 of season 2, Revolutions. It was written by Lynn Cantor and directed by Barnett Kellman. And actually, fun fact, starting this episode, Felicity would air on Wednesday nights until the end of the series, right after Dawson's Creek, which I looked it up in Nielsen ratings. Their ratings did go back up for season 3 and 4. So I think after they had moved slots to Sunday night, which was the WB's worst night, apparently, and, everyone blamed it on the haircut. We've discussed this in the past. Now she got moved to Wednesday nights right after one of my other favorite shows. So it was just like double header for me. I loved it. I loved it.
Double whammy of a Wednesday.
Exactly. UB Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So this episode opens at Dean and DeLuca. Ben and Felicity are working together. He's reading a book for class, and Felicity suggests that he gets help from Noel. But he's like, nah, I can do it on my own. But just then, Javier appears and says, oh my God, my ex just walked in. Don't look now. And as they start to be back, he's like, I said, don't look. And then proceeds to tell Ben, pretend you're my boyfriend. Ben's like, I'm not going to pretend that. But Javier just goes all in with an Oscar-winning performance. He's like, Benjamin for my birthday, gave me a bubble bath with candles and aromatherapy. He's like, whisper in my ear. And Ben whispers in his ear, Javier, I quit.
That's so funny. Oh, I love it.
Javier's, talking to Felicity. He says, aren't I just so lucky going out with such a hunk? Felicity's like, oh my God, so lucky. But then Javier peeks and is like, oh, that's not him. And so it wasn't his boyfriend. And so we got to pretend to be dating Ben for a few seconds. And I just love a funny cold open. So good.
Yeah. Any scene with Ben and Javier just has me cackling. They're so funny.
Yes. Yeah, that was great. But I liked how irritated he was when he found out it wasn't even the real ex. Like, he was, like, on board with it until that moment. Like, he was, like, okay. I mean, like, he was protesting, but it was funny. And then he's got this look on his face like he was embarrassed for nothing.
I just love that, like, Javier was so touchy-feely, and he was just like,
get squirmy.
Yeah, it was funny.
But he was smiling so much. He was a really good sport, so I really loved that, like, his the lightness he brought to that.
I mean, he did whisper in his ear. He just said he quit, but he played along.
He did play along.
So then we go to Felicity in her room studying and annoying Megan with her highlighting, her excessive highlighting of her textbook when Berkey stops by. Berkey's still apparently trying to court Felicity, and he shows her all these places that he wants to take her on a first date. Pick one out, he'll take her. She's like, thanks, but no thanks. And then Julie drops by for donuts to go get some Krispy Kremes. So they're walking along the street with some donuts, and Julie asks Felicity if she has nightmares. She's like, well, everyone has nightmares, but Julie admits that she has been having them about Zach. So Felicity suggests again that Julie go see the counselors at the health center, but Julie says she's just not ready yet. Just like, I don't know why I'm so scared, but she is. So then at the clinic, the health center, Felicity is on the phone at reception. She's looking very busy. And Lane from Gilmore Girls comes to make an appointment.
Surprise.
In this show, her name's Leela, though, not Lane. But I just see Lane whenever I see
I
her.
could see her, that being College Lane, though.
Yeah, and she would, even later, she says, oh, if my parents found out I was having sex, they'd fly here to kill me. I'm like, that tracks.
Yeah.
Her mom would definitely kill her.
I feel like it could have been in the same universe. That would have been funny.
I mean, yeah, there's so much overlap. So, yeah, Lane, who is Leela in Felicity's world, she says she needs to make an appointment because she needs the morning after pill. She says the condom broke, as if Felicity cares. But Felicity is very empathetic. She tries to book an appointment, but they don't have one until a few days later. She's like, you know what? Let me go see if we can get you in sooner. So Felicity goes to Greg's office, where he is studying for his MCATs. So I think we've decided he is an undergrad and the director of a health center. Don't you take the MCATs to get into med school?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my understanding. And I think it's completely insane. The entire premise of this episode is like, I'm the director. It's like, what? In what world? In what world? Like, even if he is a senior in his undergrad, like
21-year-old.
What?
Nope.
Yeah, that was like student director maybe, but like there'd be a medical director, like a medical doctor
There's
would be
gotta
the
be.
director. Like there
A
wouldn't
health center.
besides like the board
that
and
blew
all
my
that.
mind.
Like, yeah, there's no fucking way. There's no way. Like an actual medical doctor would have to be the director.
Or even just like
Unbelievable.
a healthcare administrator. Like there are hospital administrators. Like you need someone more than an undergrad to be managing this facility.
Yeah, that was too much. That was like they said it so many times in this episode. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
You know what? They were relying on the like teenagers who were watching this to have no clue. Like they were just like, yeah, Greg, that seems accurate. He was in charge.
Yeah,
older.
that tracks. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, an older man. Of course he's in charge.
They're old and responsible.
But I want to say, one thing I do relate to Felicity on, after I just said I don't relate to her really almost on anything, I highlight more than I leave unhighlighted. So that felt like that really resonated with me.
There you go. I love it.
And also, did you see Megan's outfit? She was so much softer. Like she just had like on a cami and a skirt. Like she didn't look all.
It
like,
was very
super
natural.
gopped up. Yeah, I was like, whoa, that's a big difference. Just early on in the episode, I think she changed it up a little bit later, but I was like, oh, she's just keeping it real casual.
Probably because she was actually studying and not out and about.
It was interesting. Interesting to see her toned down.
Mm-hmm. So he's studying for his MCATs, and Felicity asks if a certain doctor can fit Layla in between other appointments. Greg says, oh, wish it could, but we can't get her in at all because there's been a change of policy. They don't administer the morning after pill. Felicity says, well, yeah, you do. My friend Julie got it last year. He's like, well, they changed the policy. It's a hassle to give it out. Felicity says, well, it's more than a hassle for Leela, who needs it and has to worry about this. Greg says, yeah, well, I got to suck up to the administration so we continue to get the support that they need to stay open. So Felicity is upset, but goes back to the front and tells Leela that they don't give out the morning after pill anymore. And Leela is rightly pissed. She says she doesn't even have insurance. It's not like she can go to another doctor. She's like, and your director is okay with this policy? Like, the university is supposed to provide services for students and now is just telling them what their options are. Felicity's like, sorry, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm just a volunteer. So Leela leaves without the morning after pill. So then in his class, Noel is TAing and asks a question to the class, and Ben raises his hand to answer it, which is very refreshing. I love to see that. But whatever his answer is, Noel politely disagrees. So as the
smooth, give him that.
yeah, there was nothing hostile. They seem to be on good terms right now, which I enjoy. So he dismisses the class. Ruby gives him eyes as she's walking out. They exchange pleasantries as she leaves, but that's about it between the two of them. And then as Ben leaves, Noel thanks him for raising his hand. He was like one of the only people speaking up. Ben's like, yeah, I guess I didn't get it right though. And Noel's like, you know what? Debs is just Debs. Don't feel bad. I'm like, oh, Debs. Debs is just Debs. I don't even know who Debs is.
Oh, good. I was like, I don't know.
You're like, Debs. But
Debs be
Noel,
Debbin'.
Debs just Debs. So yeah, Noel tells Ben, like, if you ever want to talk about any of this stuff, let me know. I'm like, oh, another olive branch. I love it. So then back at the health center, Felicity tells Greg that turning Leela away was wrong. Greg's like, yep, it's a hassle. Felicity like, oh, there's that word again. You keep saying hassle. It's like, but it's more than that. She made some phone calls, and every other major university in the city provides the morning after pill. And she also found out that it's just a higher dose of the birth control pill, which they already prescribe and give out to students. So what's the big problem? And Greg explains that there was some article, within the year about the pill and maybe some risks or something. And the university was mentioned in this article, and it, gave the trustees the spooks. So they made some phone calls and basically, yeah, they decided not to give it out anymore. Greg says he argued too, but the trustees won. Felicity asks, so you have no problem with the university telling students what their options are? Greg's like, look, I don't like a lot of things. I want this, I want that, but there's only so many battles. So yeah, your job is hard, I get it, but this is wrong. And Greg says, well, when I'm a doctor, I'll change the policy. Like, oh, so she's gonna wait 10 years for this to change. Thanks, Greg.
Woo.
Oh, would you like a 90210 reference?
Sure.
Of course.
Okay, fine. Yeah, since you enthusiastically said sure. So the closest that I could come, like off the top of my head, and there might be some other similar episodes, but this one, they're in high school, obviously, in 90210. And in season 2, episode 21, called Everybody's Talking About It, they had a whole big episode about if the school should distribute condoms or not. So there was a whole big protest that the kids and like with the PTA and everything. And I don't think they were successful, but the episode was valuable. It explores the differing viewpoints on sex education and the controversy surrounding condom availability, with several characters voicing their opinions on the matter. So they had both sides, like with the parents. Donna's mom actually was a big anti-condom person, and Donna, who remains a virgin throughout like the majority of the series, was one of the loudest voices speaking for condom distribution. So was Andrea, who was like also a virgin. So and she felt like a whole fraud, and it was a whole thing. But
and she's the one that gets pregnant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she could have used that condom.
She sure could have.
Wow.
So there you go. Some history before you.
Crazy. So then Felicity's still upset after her chat with Greg that she goes to Pavone to complain. I love that she just like talks about her daily life in therapy, like, oh, can you believe this happened? And it just felt like a normal conversation you have with friends, not with your therapist. But I love it because Pavone tells her what's what. So she explains to Pavone that if Julie had to go somewhere else for the morning after pill last year, like it would have been so devastating for her. She goes on and on about it. And Pavone, she's like, so you've discovered an injustice. Just the way she said it, I don't know. It was so funny to me. She's like, okay, like I get like you're a kid, you discovered an injustice. Okay, I don't know. It just like showed how maybe naive Felicity still is, and like how young, and it's just like, yeah, okay, there's an injustice, like get to the point. What else? So like what are you gonna do about it? I don't know. There's something really made me laugh about that. So Felicity says that, Greg wasn't taking her seriously. Pavone's getting agitated. She's searching around her office for something, right? She's like, oh, you're so funny. You assume that something is so deeply important and righteous that people are going to give a shit about it. And she's still, going through all of her stuff, getting more and more agitated, and tells Felicity, look, you sitting here isn't going to do a damn thing. Like, you're sitting here talking about it, complaining about it, isn't going to do anything. And then she finds her cigarette, lights up, and she's all better. Pavone just needs a cigarette, and then she's happy.
She was in distress. She was almost in as much distress as Felicity. She was
But I'm
absorbing that distress.
Yeah, and I'm like, baby, you should get that looked at, Pavone. So Felicity rolls her eyes. She's like, so what? Like, I'm supposed to go do something about it? Like, yeah, Felicity. So she goes back to her room and she starts Googling the history of student protests. She's
boy.
she's just discovered protesting. And I thought that was also the funniest thing ever. She's like reading all about like, oh, what's this thing called a protest? It's so funny. I loved it. So after she discovers protests, she goes to Leela's room, ask her if she was able to get the morning after pill. She says, yeah, she went to Planned Parenthood. Shout out Planned Parenthood. So then Felicity's like, well, I came here to tell you, heard about this thing, about a sit-in at this college because they found out their university had merchandise that was made in sweatshops and they won. Talks about these, instances where students have done this. So she wants to start a sit-in. She's like, look, I'm going to do this, but Leela, if you want to join, I wanted to let you know about it. She's like, absolutely, I'm in. Just give me a few minutes and to gather some stuff and invite my boyfriend and they'll be there. And if you couldn't tell, I love this episode so much. Like, it feels so college to me. Like, you're 18, 19, learning about the world. You have all these ideals. You're going to go to protests. You're sticking it to the man. And, like, you feel like, oh, I'm going to change the world. And that's what this whole episode was to me. Like, this is what I thought college was going to be like.
Did you guys witness any protests when you were in college?
I went to one of the most liberal colleges in the country.
Yeah,
I absolutely saw protests and participated.
Oh, nice.
Yes. We didn't do a sit-in that looked like that much fun, but
we should stage a Felicity sit-in. We should make a Felicity sit-in so that they can release the original music, like DVDs with the original music. We should do a sit-in. Where should we sit? We'll figure it out offline.
Sony. Or no, maybe it's Disney actually who owns the Felicity.
Maybe.
I don't know who owns all of this stuff.
Well, I should ask Amy Aquino because she liked my message on her post. I commented and she liked it like a few days ago. And I'm like, oh my God, we're best friends now?
From one therapist to another.
I'm so excited. I forgot to tell you guys because I wanted to tell you.
That's amazing. I mean, that's how I feel anytime that Amanda Foreman likes one of our Instagram posts.
Best.
So I just I can't even believe she sees them, let alone likes them. So anyway.
Yes.
Humble brag. And yeah, the episode also to me really fit Felicity's character because she is so self-righteous and feels so strongly about what she believes in, like almost to a fault, or not almost, but to a fault sometimes, that it feels like this was a good way to harness that energy for her. It just felt like it really fit.
It was nice to see. Yeah. And so this is still another example of her being a Budinsky, though, but she was using her powers
100%.
for good.
Yeah.
Because I was taken aback when she rolled up at her dorm room and was like, hey, girl, did you get that pill you needed? Like, I would have been like, what the fuck are you doing
How
here?
did you find out where I live?
If I opened the door and saw her, I would have been like,
well,
slam.
We know the students are just getting all the information to type into Excel, so she can find any info she needs.
That's true.
Yeah, but it's a little bit appalling on the one hand because that could have gone very differently. At least she was receptive to it. Because that would be insane to have somebody from the health center show up at your goddamn door. That's insane.
Yeah.
But
luckily she's a lady. Like if it was a dude, she'd be like mace him right away.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, if Greg showed up. So you're like, hold on, let me get my boyfriend, and then it would have been kapow.
What I did like, though, was she was just telling her, like, this is something I'm going to go do because it's what I believe in. If you want to join, would love to have you. But she wasn't, like, forcing it, like, you need to do something about it. You should tell the authorities and you should do this and protest about it. Like, she was just like, this is something I believe in and I'm going to go do. You're more than welcome to come. And then, Leela was like, absolutely, I'll be there. So I did like that. She was like, this is what I'm doing because I believe in it.
Yeah,
I mean, she still, tries
moderated.
to persuade Greg and tell him what's what because he's the student
director.
The director.
He's got so much power.
21-year-old director. But that's because, he's like in an authority position. But yeah, I mean, she always thinks that people should believe in the same things that she does. But
Pavone really course corrected her, set her straight. It's like, just because you think something's a thing doesn't. And that distinction of it's not his battle. Like, he's not the one who gives a shit. Like, if you do, then do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was awesome.
Yeah. So at the health center, Felicity and Leela are getting more and more people to show up. Elena's there. We see Berkey show up to pick up a prescription. Elena's like, what, for Viagra? He was like, what if it was Viagra? You'd feel pretty bad then, shouldn't you? But we can hear he's all congested, so he just needs his Claritin. But yeah, he's like, what are y'all doing here? And he's like, you think this is a sit-in? This is not a sit-in. I'm going to go get my Claritin, and then I'm going to go round up people, and we're going to make this a real sit-in. So then we jump to Noel and Ben together. They're in like I don't know if it was a bodega or cafeteria, but they're getting food and talking about progress and violence. So Noel is kind of helping him study. Ben goes to a fridge to get a drink and is like, who drinks Mr. Pitt? Noel's like, Mr. Pitt, like, are you even listening to me? Like, what's going like? Those two were also very funny this episode.
So funny.
Their interactions.
They made me laugh so hard.
It's good to see those two in scenes together, just the two of them. And yeah, they're really funny interacting.
And it was good to see Elena showing up for Felicity instead of Noel being in that role. So part of the reason why we even got to see Noel and Ben together is because they specifically put them there. Because I feel like if he was not tutoring Ben, like, he would have been there instead of Elena, like they've done so often in the first half of the season. So I'm glad they made that shift for this episode, and Elena was by her side, like cheering her on and supporting her instead of Noel, because that ain't his place as much as it's Elena's.
Yeah. And now that you mention that, I think it's also cool that like Julie stood on her own, like without Ben's support, like she was also there with Felicity and Elena and spoke up on her own. And yeah, the two guys were just kind of off in their own little world, seeing it happen on TV. Now that you mentioned that, I like that. But like the girls were all banded together. So then back at the health center, Lloyd, there's just so many good one-liners. Lloyd says, oh, I can't believe I can't get my morning after pills.
Aww.
He's like, Lloyd, those are just for women. It was so good. He wants to have all of the conditions out there in the world.
And all the cures for them, too.
Yeah, yeah. But, he's showing up. He's showing up for the health center. That's there for him.
Well, they show up for him all the time. He should show up. He probably was already there and just, was there on accident. But still, he didn't run out and be like, fuck this. He stuck around. Yeah. So good for him.
He's there for them.
Yep.
So the phone is ringing off the hook. Leela's on the phone with the New York Times, who wants to know how she spells her name. And as a PR professional, I just thought that was hilarious. Like Berkey's saying there's really not that many people here that you call this a sit-in. This isn't a sit-in. Like the New York Times wouldn't be calling already if it was that small. Because there's no social media back then. So it's not like word we're seeing people tweeting about this sit-in. Like it would have taken a lot longer unless like you're actually calling the New York Times being like, hey, we're doing this sit-in.
That is pretty wild that all of a sudden
I'm like, the New York Times
emerges
really?
out of nowhere. Like materializes out of nothingness. Like what?
Like maybe in a day or two, but not right off the bat. So then Greg wants to talk to her, pulls her out in the back, tells her he knows that she has good intentions, but this is all disrupting the operations of the health center. She's like, yeah, that's the point of a protest, Greg.
Dumbass.
So he says, as the director, how the center runs is like reflective of him. And he's got some muckety-muck Simmons coming from student services later today. And he's going to ask him to write a letter of recommendation for med school. So, this can't all be here when this Simmons guy comes. I'm like, yes, cozy up to power to get what you want, Greg. Don't care about everyone else. Just care about your own little letter of recommendation.
Yeah, I'd be like, really good, because I want to meet him. Like, good, I'm glad he's here. I want to face-to-face, like, set up a meeting. Want to talk to him. Got some stuff to say.
So it's for his own personal enhancement, I guess. Advancement, not enhancement. Advancement. Yeah. To not fight this battle. So it's not just that, I can't fight every battle. It's because he wants a letter of recommendation.
It's bad timing. I will say, in a small, minor defense of him, I still think he's a dirtball. Like, fuck Greg forever. If it was Elena looking for a letter of recommendation for med school, I think we'd feel differently. I think that she would be an advocate still, but I'm just saying, like, I was trying to put myself in that position. Like, I wouldn't want my chances to get into a school to get fucked with either. Like, that's real. That's not wildly unreasonable to care about an important letter of recommendation. But if it's coming from an asshole, I wouldn't personally be seeking out a letter of recommendation from that type of person to begin with. But I did have a teeny bit of empathy for him, because I was thinking if it was Elena, we'd have a lot more empathy for her if it was her letter of recommendation that was getting potentially fucked with.
Yeah, but I don't know if she would tell Felicity to not do it. Like, Elena is a badass. I don't know.
Mhm.
She is a badass. I was just trying to think about it from a different angle. Like I said, I still think he sucks, but and I was really impressed with Berkey stepping up in a huge way.
Yes.
Like, it's like people that are on the periphery of our lives sometimes step up way bigger, like in much bigger ways than people who are close to us who we think are going to step up. They seem to fall to the background, and like these peripheral characters show up when you need them most. Like, I think that was very true to life, because I've had that experience when I've had bad stuff happen, and it's like the people you think you can count on are nowhere to be seen, but like these randos show up and they end up being your best friends. It's crazy.
That's so true. So yeah, Greg then tells Felicity that there are other ways to get what she wants, and it's not just her future, but every student out there is risking their academic future too. So he tells her to stop before she gets into trouble. But we see Berkey's out there handing out flyers to everyone, like those guys on the Las Vegas Strip.
Like, how do you do that?
Yes, flyers. That's how word of mouth travels.
Paper. Before social media, there was paper. Flyers. That's crazy.
What is this paper? But he's good at it. Like, he's just shoving it in everyone's faces. Like, bad for women, bad for women. I was like, yeah, Berkey.
He had some passion behind it.
Mm-hmm.
He was effective.
So Ben and Noel have moved to Noel's apartment. They're asking more questions and quizzing each other. Ben gets one right. So he's like, all right, I need a break. I need a beer. Again, it was so funny. When he gets the question right, Noel's like, yep, yeah, you got it. See, now you know more than me. When Ben's like, oh, okay, time for a break. He's like, I was just kidding. You don't actually know more.
That was so good. They were so funny together.
So Ben tells Noel that he never, it's funny, he never did all this work in high school, but he didn't fail. He just got B's and C's. He probably should have failed, but Noel asks, what did you do in high school then? He says, just partying, swimming, running. Noel's like, girls? Like, yeah, girls. Noel says, we had diametrically opposed high school experiences. Ben's like, how do you mean? And then, he's like, oh, you were so-and-so, I was Marks. Ben's like, got it. Okay. So again, I just like when they're getting along like this. They're really funny together. And I think the actors are very good at comedy, and I wish we saw more of it on the show. So then at the health center again, now Felicity is putting up banners, so she's not stopping. And Simmons shows up. He's scowling, goes up to Greg and gives Greg kind of a talking to. We don't hear, but we can see he's getting reamed a little bit. So Felicity's seeing that happen as Elena answers the phone and hands it to Felicity. She starts talking. I think it's Julie. That was what I inferred. So while she's on the phone, she's also exchanging looks with Greg, who looks very disappointed in Felicity because, he's getting reamed out by Simmons. And then Felicity overhears the British guy who was also in Dawson's Creek.
Yeah.
And I love the
That's
WB
right.
cinematic universe here. Like, we're getting so much crossover.
From.
Yeah. I looked him up immediately because I was like, who is that fucker? I know him.
I remember
like,
watching
Dawson's
Dawson's Creek and being like, that's the guy from Felicity. Like, yeah, because he's in much later seasons when Dawson's in college, and he's like a director of one of like film or TV show or something, and Dawson dates the lead actress girl who's annoying. Yeah. So he's handing out more flyers to the people at the sit-in, which information that tells them what to do if you get arrested, because it's a very real possibility that they're all going to get arrested.
Well, I don't know that they'd get arrested in that context, but protests in general, I think
I'm
that's
just saying
so
that's
smart
what he
to
said.
prepare. Yeah. I like that they were addressing that, because that is a real thing to be aware of, just for general purposes. I did
No.
appreciate
Yeah.
the energy though, like people doing something for something they believe in. It was nice to see.
It was a little too art imitating life, imitating art for me this weekend, but yeah.
It hit a little close to
poignant.
home.
Yeah.
It did.
Then Felicity is now doubting herself a little bit because she's seeing Greg get yelled at. She's hearing about people getting arrested possibly. So Felicity says to Elena and Leela, like, oh, maybe Greg was right. Maybe there are other ways to get what we want. Let's start a letter writing campaign because we know strongly worded letters always make history. But Leela and Elena both say that they're not leaving. So Felicity has I don't want to say created a monster because it's not a bad thing, but like she started this thing, but now she can't necessarily control what everyone else wants to do. So I think she's getting a little nervous because then Berkey brings in tons more people streaming down the stairs. So then she tells Julie on the phone, well, you and Sean might as well come now too. So it got a little bit like her skis got a little out in front of her, but it's for a good cause.
It is. And that's what makes me even more mad that everybody's talking to her. Like, just because she started it, you know, like, yeah, it's like that snowball that gets bigger. It's like, she doesn't have control over Berkey bringing in a million people or who's going to sit or, you know, stay or go. Like, if she could say, like, hey, everybody, party's over, get out. But, like, if they don't want to, they're not going to go.
Yeah.
So I don't like that they place so much pressure on her. Like, you have to shut this down. It's like, why do I have to shut down? Like, you're the fucking director. You go out there and tell them to fucking leave. I'm just another student. Like, what the fuck am I going to do? I'd be like, get the fuck out of my face with that bullshit. Like, if you want it done, you go do it yourself.
And it's not like they're a nonprofit or like some sort of organization that is hosting this. Like she just, it was word of mouth and grassroots. It just, people heard about it and now they're all protesting. So now it's nighttime and they've added some people chanting outside with candles and they're decorating with more posters. Inside, it's a full-on operation now. We see Elena, Julie, and Ruby are all making a poster together. And Elena said that it was good of Ruby to come. Ruby's like, well, yeah, like, why wouldn't I? And Julie says, well, Elena says that, you know, because you're having this baby, she didn't think that you would support, you know, the morning after pill and all that. Ruby responds, man, like, you all think I'm crazy, don't you? Elena says she just thinks that Ruby's life is going to change in ways that she can't even imagine. And I gotta say, I do love that Ruby's there and that they showed this side of things that, like, it's all about choice. Like, that was Ruby's choice to have the baby. And so why wouldn't she, you know, I think it's great she can still then support the morning after pill because it's all about choice. And
I wish that would have been more explicit, though.
Yeah. I wish Ruby had said, like, why wouldn't I support it? Like, of course, like, everyone should have, I chose this, not right for everyone. Yeah, I wish it was in there, but they quickly like moved past the thing too about like, I think your life is going to change in ways that you don't imagine. Then they just like immediately change subjects. So I don't know if they're trying to like foreshadow or hint at something later in the season. Like, I can't really think of anything. I mean, obviously she's pregnant, she's having a baby, but like, I couldn't think of something else. I'm like, why was this brought up now? See, I don't know. That was a question mark for me.
For Elena, because she had felt very strongly that she was ruining her life. So
that's true.
I think it's just within her character to kind of be like, damn, girl. But
so yeah, right after that little convo, Felicity makes an announcement that she just talked to the assistant dean and their official comment or their official response is no response. So if anyone watched Succession, Cousin Greg, it was no comment, no comment. But yeah, it was, their response was no response. So they're not even willing to talk to them. Cousin Greg was funny. I really want to get a mug that says no comment, being in PR. I just thought it was hilarious. So then we see two cheerleaders start to cheer. I was wondering, were those Julie's roommates from the beginning of the season? They didn't look the same.
They didn't look the same. So that's what stopped me from looking it up. But I thought that they could have been, like, I thought that would have been cool, but I didn't feel like it was them. But it made me think for a second.
Okay. So we've got cheerleaders. Sean's now there. It's the same people?
Yeah, they were in sophomoric. They were in that episode. Yeah.
You heard it here first, people. Julie's former roommates for like a day.
Love that.
It's a great callback.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I was like, it's too similar to not like They could have had
But
a
why did it
blonde,
look
like they
so
could have had anyone. They
unfamiliar
looked so the
16
same.
episodes later? Why was it so hard to be like, I'm pretty sure it's them, but I'm not sure. That's weird. But it was them, so there's
Okay.
that.
So yeah, we got Julie's former roommates back in the mix. They're doing a cheer. We see Sean is there now, and he's filming everything again because he's, a documentarian.
That was very cool too.
Yeah.
I really like that. Like, that's like so important to document these things. I thought that
Yep.
was amazing.
And he could sell it to the news too. Like they're always looking for
it's
footage.
like actual important shit.
Mm-hmm.
So not just him fucking around. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah. And since he doesn't go there, I don't know. Maybe it'd be weird. Maybe not. Everyone's welcome at a protest, but you're not a college student. So I like that he had a purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
It actually made sense for him to be around this one time.
So then the British guy starts playing We Shall Not Be Moved on his acoustic guitar. Again, this feels very college.
Loved it.
We've got
The
Megan
vibes.
there for some reason, probably just to see Greg, even though she doesn't,
Mhm.
but maybe she does care about the morning after pill too, but she's not really a joiner. So I think she was more just there to see Greg.
Uh-huh.
So back at Noel's, now the boys are playing Mortal Kombat together. Boys playing video games. This is also very college. They're looking buzzed now. So Noel says that he's kicking Ben's ass, which he always wanted to do. Ben gets up to get another beer. Noel's like, how much beer is in there? And I'm like, it's your fridge. You don't know. Did Ben buy the beer and bring it? And I'm like, this is your place. How do you not know how much beer you have? So yeah, Ben gets up for another beer. He says, here you go, and throws the beer and hits Noel square in the side of the head. I can't, that had
That's
to
the best thing I've
hurt.
ever seen. That was so funny. I think it was so dangerous and scary because I'd be like, oh, I'm concussed. I need to go to the hospital. But
That had
that
to
would
hurt
so fucking bad. It truly would, but it looked funny. Cinematically, it looked hilarious.
They're funny in the scene together. Yes. Because then Ben also bursts out laughing. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't do that on purpose. I'm sorry. He's really funny too.
He lost his mind.
And he's like, here, hit me back. He's like, what? No, I'm not going to hit you. He's like, come on, it's payback. I hit you. You hit me. Come on. You said you always wanted to, kick my ass. Do it. Noel's like, I'm not going to do it. But then as he thinks about it, he's like, all right. Right to the face, slugs him, then goes down, which is crazy too. I'm like, Noel can hit? What? I wouldn't have guessed that because he's a nerd.
Well, because Ben was boozy. He was woozy.
They were both boozy.
He would,
yeah.
If you would have accomplished that when they were both sober.
And then Ben holds his cheek and gives him a death stare. So now it's on. So then Ben tackles Noel and they start wrestling around on the ground. TV gets knocked over, and so we see the parallels between Mortal Kombat and them, wrestling. So
that's so
just
fun.
Chef's kiss. Amazing.
So good.
Yeah. I think he was asking how much beer there was because there were so many beer cans on the table. I noticed when they fell down. So I think it was just how much more can possibly be left? We drank 1 million of them already. How much? Is this refrigerator like a TARDIS or something? How does it keep having more shit in it?
And I think it's also, I don't know, do we think this was also a long time coming? They kind of have to wrestle and get this all out to move on and eventually be friends. I don't know. What do we think about the importance of this little mini fight? Just for the comedic relief? Or was there some bigger purpose here?
Melissa?
I don't know. I mean, he did say you've always wanted to hit me, right? Didn't he say that? So
yeah,
because Noel said I'm kicking your ass, which I've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, they said.
Well,
that.
Ben wasn't even playing too, so it just I think it highlighted how devious Noel is too, and his darkness, because he was playing against someone who's not there, and he immediately was like, "You did that on purpose." He's got this victim mentality constantly. So that was really aligned with his character. The way they've written him, I think they've done Nolan injustice with the way they've written him. And that's why I don't like him, because they did a good job at doing a bad job.
But do we think that this fight had to happen for them to have any kind of semblance of a friendship? They had to just duke it out, get it all out of the way? Do we think this just shows that maybe they can never actually be friends?
I think that.
What? That? Okay.
I think that they can't, because they were doing fine. They were studying, they were playing video games. but there's that undercurrent of like Noel immediately jumping to you did that on purpose when Ben's not that
Did
kind
he
of
say
person.
that? I thought Ben just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't do that on purpose." I didn't think Noel said you did it on purpose.
He did reiterate
he?
it, but I'm pretty sure he did because I was kind of like, "Are you serious? Like that was clearly like a drunken accident."
But Noel wasn't even looking at him, and we know Noel's not athletic. He's not going to have like reflexes of Superman. But I'm not saying
And the
Ben did
reason
it on
he wasn't
purpose,
looking
but
was because he was playing against Ben, who wasn't able to defend
Yeah.
himself because he sucks. Because Noel
I
sucks.
mean, it's a video game.
I know, but I'm just saying that's just Noel being like taking advantage of a situation, which he does in other ways. So this is very in line with his character. This whole thing.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of like future seasons and if they ever have any like more deep conversations or like
Like
hangouts, and I
bonding?
can't
No.
really think of any.
I don't think they do.
Yeah.
I think it just
So I
gets
don't
worse.
necessarily think this was like their breakthrough to becoming friends because they don't really become that close.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
their depths episode.
Yeah.
No. Good callback though.
Okay. So back at the health center, Greg gets off the phone with Simmons. Felicity asks how it went. How do we think it went? Simmons is not going to give him the letter of recommendation. So Greg tells
womp.
Felicity, Greg tells Felicity that the sit-in isn't going to work, that the trustees give the school millions of dollars, and if one of them says to stop giving out aspirin, everyone's going to walk around with a headache. And that I also could, this is more what I can see for Greg's perspective. Like, yeah, these trustees, these people have millions of dollars, like the power that all these people have.
Yeah.
This part I understand where it's like they don't give a crap about 20 students sitting in the lobby of a health center. So this is the piece that I more understand. But I love that like they do show you can change people's perspectives when you show human stories and all that stuff. But this is the piece where I'm like, ugh, yeah, I can see where he's coming from here. Like these trustees,
Because he knows
the
them.
school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since he's the director, he knows how
He's very important.
Yeah. So it's like, I feel that way sometimes with the insurance companies. Like, it's like, I could ask, but I know they're going to say no. And sometimes, like, I ask just to be like, yes, patient, I'd made that request just so I can say I did it, even though I know it's not going anywhere. So it's like, that sense of defeat is underlying. So I think that's another reason why he was just like it genuinely is a hassle for him. But again, that's why Pabon pointed it out. It wasn't his battle.
And like you said, he has fought a ton of battles already. There's so many things he wants.
I
wants
can
the flu
totally
shot.
relate to that. Yeah.
And I think it also, again, shows a little bit of Felicity's naivete.
Yes, big time.
Also, just like how idealistic you are when you're young. Like you think you can change the world. You haven't experienced all of the roadblocks and barriers and people in power and all that. Like it's hard to not get beat down by the world.
Yep.
Not that he's that much older than her and like understands the world.
But he's
got
like, experience with in this particular context that she doesn't have because she's only been there for some months.
And she's a comm serve.
Yeah. So she's not as jaded as he is yet.
Yep. So yeah, this is the piece where I kind of sympathize, not empathize. Empathize. Anyway. So Felicity does say, no matter what happens, she is sorry about Simmons. He's like, well, yeah, I'm going to go make some phone calls. So then everyone goes to sleep in the clinic. They're all in their sleeping bags, packed into the hallways and every little crevice of the health center. We see Sean's in his sleeping bag, and I loved that he was falling asleep with like his arm outstretched, filming himself sleeping on the floor. And as he falls asleep, he like hits himself in the head with the camera. I don't know if he thought of that or if the writers, or the director, I don't know who thought of that, but I just thought that little piece was so funny. And I'm like, oh, he was doing a selfie. That's like the first influencer, like filming himself selfie style.
Was he pointed at him or was he trying to get a shot of the whole room?
No, I think it was pointed at himself right in front. It was so good. Then we see Felicity and Julie are in sleeping bags next to each other when Julie jolts awake out of obviously a bad dream. Felicity asks if she's all right and then tells her that she should consider making an appointment with one of the counselors. She said even the tapes with Sally, she's like, that's why I do it. It just helps letting it out. She says, usually the less I want to talk about something, the better it feels once I do. And that's my angsty away message of the week. It's not super angsty, but it was a nice quote. So
It's solid.
nice.
I don't know what else it would be.
that's the thing. It was the angstiest that this episode
out
got.
of all the stuff. Maybe something Pavone said could have been angsty. I can't remember if there was any like a golden nugget there.
There wasn't. It was just she just kind of said
She was just funny.
You think she was just funny. She was just agitated from her cigarette break or not having her cigarette break. So Julie responds that part of her wants to, and she doesn't know why she's so scared, but she is, to talk about it. Then at Noel's in the morning, the boys are waking up post-wrestling match with hangovers. Noel asks Ben, "Are you dead?" Ben says, "Yeah." Exchange is great. Ben getting off the floor, peeling himself off of that like rough-looking, what is that, jute carpet? Oh my God, that killed me too. It was like centimeter by centimeter, pushing himself off of that rug. That was hilarious
like
to me.
peeling back like Velcro.
Yes. It was hilarious. Almost like he was stuck to it. So then Ben tells Noel that it's an emergency. He's going to need lime juice, tomato juice, some eggs, and baking soda.
Oh.
And again, Noel's facial expressions while he's saying each ingredient, that killed me too. He's like dry heaving at every single ingredient. So as Ben is now mixing all this stuff up in a blender, Noel says, "So we got in a fight last night. Who do you think won?" Ben says, "I really don't think it was you." So that's what I was going to say.
So
That was perfect.
It's like, Noel, I'm pretty sure you didn't win. Sorry, bud. Because, yeah, you can only win Mortal Kombat when your other player isn't sitting there. So, yeah, that was all so funny. I really don't think it was you.
That's a nice way to say it.
Yeah.
You could have been meaner about that.
So back to the health center. Sean's still filming the sit-in. We see Felicity and the girls all playing jacks, and they're talking about protests in the 60s, saying that, like, this sit-in isn't like, you know, all of the protests from back in the day where they were all burning their bras. And Elena says, "Yeah, well, to burn a bra, you gotta wear a bra."
Yeah.
That was cute, too.
That was good.
Yeah, in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a lot of freeing the nipple, no bras. So then, in the middle of all their fun, Dr. Porter appears with Simmons. Ruh-roh. So they take Felicity and Greg to the back office, and Dr. Porter tells Felicity that Simmons offered him a third-year course to teach next semester. However, Simmons called him for help in resolving this sit-in thing. Dr. Porter's like, "What sit-in thing?" Simmons says, "Check the newspaper." So Dr. Porter says he checked the newspaper. He hands it over to Felicity, and they're in there, page like 35, 36 or something. But Dr. Porter is not pleased, tells Felicity that she's already here because she was being punished from getting in trouble in the pool, and you don't get out of trouble by causing more trouble. So Simmons tells Felicity that if they get everyone to leave and stop this stuff, they'll do a review of all these policies on the contraceptives. Dr. Porter says he talked to the dean and says that this is as good of an offer as they're going to get. And at worst, she could get expelled or even arrested. But Felicity will not back down. She says, "Yeah, I might get expelled or arrested, but that's my choice. This isn't like the rollerblades, Dad. You can't just take it away to make it stop. I'm not a kid anymore." And Dr. Porter says he knows she's not. But Felicity tells Simmons thanks for the offer, but this is a bad policy and everyone out there wants change, and she just doesn't think that a review will work. So Simmons pleads with Greg. Greg explained to her, why this is blah, 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 blah. Greg's like, "No, she's right, and you know she's right." He tells Simmons that he's asked for free flu shots, he's asked for needle exchange programs, and they all get stuck in review. So he says he's now with Felicity. I'm like, okay, thank you, Greg, for realizing this is the right team to be on. But then Leela comes in. It says that the news is there with cameras and they want to talk to her. So Felicity goes out to meet the reporter who wants to ask her questions on camera. But Felicity's like, "Yeah, give me 1 second." She goes to Julie and Elena and Leela. She's so nervous. She's like, "Leela, maybe you could do it." And I mentioned this earlier, but Leela's like, "Me, no. Like, if my parents knew that I was even having sex, they'd fly to New York to kill me." Which felt, very lame. And then Julie talks her up. She's like, you got this. You talked to people inside like it was no big deal. Felicity's like, yeah, well, I almost, had a mental breakdown doing that. Like, there's no way I can do this. But they talked her up. So then we quickly go back to Ben and Noel finishing up studying. They're on the floor, still watching TV. They turn the channel to the news and see Felicity on air. Now, I also see Felicity start to stumble on her words when the reporter asks her why this is so important to her personally. So she's starting to stumble. She wants to start over, but sorry, honey, it's live. Keep going. So she's looking pretty lost out there. She's saying, it's about. And Julie jumps in, says, it's about comfort. The reporter's like, what? Tell me more. So Julie says for students who have been raped, that they're very confused and scared, and she knows this because this is what happened to her. She says it's only natural to want to go to your own health center, and it's the very last thing you want is to imagine getting pregnant from that rape. She said last year they did distribute the pill, and it was one less thing that she had to worry about. But now, because of some trustees' misunderstanding of how important this pill is, they've decided to stop giving them out, which is just so wrong. It's so wrong for women and their partners. And that's why this is so important. So the reporter says, thank you very much. So-and-so coming to you live, back to you, Chad or Fred or whatever. And Julie's now off camera. It says, oh my God, did I just say that? Felicity says that was so great and hugs her. And then the guys in Noel's apartment say, oh my God. And I got chills because it was just such an amazing, powerful moment.
Yeah.
And it is the type that can hopefully change people's opinions because you see that these things have real impact on human beings and human lives.
I'm so glad they decided to do that because, like we were saying earlier, this whole thing wasn't Felicity's. Like, she wasn't in charge of this. And so she was just a catalyst that started it. But it was so much more meaningful to have Julie speak about it in that way and kind of do that callback. So that was awesome.
I agree. I don't want to burst a bubble about it though. And I'm going to say it anyway. I love that Julie was able to do that. I think in light of her having so much struggle at the beginning to even make an appointment for therapy, that it's a little unrealistic that she'd be able to make that speech. I'm glad that she did it and it was important and it's real. Maybe if she was farther along in her recovery process, I would have expected that, but it was a little bit because they were showing such difficulty with it at the beginning of the episode, and all of a sudden she's able to talk to a news reporter about it with no problem at all. It was a little bit far-fetched. I don't know that any of my patients who are actively having nightmares about a trauma would be able to speak so fluidly on the news. You know what I mean? That's a little bit of a romanticized end, but that's okay. I'm glad it happened.
For the drama, the TV of it all. Yeah, that makes sense. It is a leap. Like,
it's a little bit
she
of a
can't,
leap, yeah.
She's scared to talk about it with a counselor, but is fine doing it on camera, live in front of, I get that.
Yeah, but she didn't really she didn't tell her entire
She wasn't
story of
talking
this
about
is what
the
happened that
assault.
night. And
Yeah.
I think she was faced with the thought of, oh my God, all these women who this is going to happen to, like it happened to me, are not going to have that opportunity to prevent pregnancy. And so maybe that just kind of gave her that shove. But yeah, she didn't really go into too much depth about
For
her.
sure. Yeah, she wasn't having a counseling session on the news. It was just a little bit of a surprise because they made such a big deal about it being so difficult. But maybe that's the point, because it was so difficult. That's what made it that important to be able to speak about it. So I guess there's that.
Yeah, and I think the only reason she spoke up is also because Felicity was struggling. I know they're not the best of friends right now, but they are opening up to each other more. And I think maybe she just saw Felicity was struggling, so she's like, it's about comfort. She just kind of jumped in, and then the reporter was like, oh, well, tell me more. And all of a sudden the camera's on her now, and maybe she just had this out of body experience. I'm just gonna talk because. Let me tell you, when you get on camera live, your soul just does leave your body. It's really weird. You're I don't know what I just said the last 5 minutes. If you were, I've had to do it for clients before, and it's just it is out of body. It's very weird. Your soul leaves, and you're just watching from above yourself do an interview. So yeah, and the way she reacted after, did I just say that? I feel it was more just of an instinct to jump in and help Felicity in the moment rather than I want to talk about this.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I can see where, it does look romanticized too. But I did, get goosebumps at the whole
Yeah, it's still
conversation. Like,
important.
oh, just because like some trustees' misunderstanding of how important this, I was like, yeah, go Julie. Like, probably the most I've ever liked Julie.
Yeah.
So then after Julie's big moment, it's very calm and subdued at the sit-in afterward. Everyone's just kind of chilling. It's probably been, 2 days now? 3 days? I don't know. Probably not very long, which is also romanticized. Like, oh, everything will be solved in 48 hours. Oh, and Julie's sitting on the floor. Sean's sitting on the chair next to her. And he gives her a really nice, like, shoulder pat, too. Like, just a little like, hey, I'm here. Here's some comfort. Like, you did great. I don't know. I really loved. I'm liking Sean more and more.
It was much more
I think
likable lately.
I think he is a good friend to her, even though he does have feelings for her. So then Felicity, sitting next to Greg on the floor, tells him thanks. That was an unexpected gift. I'm just like, oh, he did the bare minimum of supporting you. I don't know. Like every episode, she's like, oh, thank you, you did this, or oh, do you need help? And like he didn't even apologize to you. Anyway. So Greg says that there's just so many things he's wanted to change, but he's been too afraid to act. And then Dean Allison is on the phone for Greg. So they both get up and go in the back together to talk on the phone. Dean Allison is telling Greg that he saw Julie on TV and one of the other trustees saw her too. But he's like, okay, what else is he saying? What's going on? Gets off the phone. Greg tells Felicity, well, apparently this is all a big misunderstanding. They're backpedaling. You won. Felicity says, we won? He's like, we won. And then she kisses him.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, no, you won, not we. He just joined your fight 2 seconds ago.
Go
not
find
we.
your friend Julie and hug her. Like, what the fuck?
And Leela and Elena.
Gross.
What the fuck did he do to contribute to this? Other than just be like, hey, dude, like, shut up. Like, he wasn't part of like, the protest.
Yeah, he just didn't support whatever Simmons was saying. That's it.
And I hate that she kisses him. Like, maybe if he had tried to kiss her, because he was like, obviously thinking she's cool after all this. But she kissed him?
I was so disappointed.
After such a good, strong showing of Felicity.
Yes. No. And such a good episode overall. That was just such a letdown. Like, girl, really? Seriously? Like, what is wrong with you?
She's 19. He's older. He's MCAT. I think she's projecting a little bit. Not the daddy issues thing, but just like, this is a future I could have. Is like, I could be a doctor. I could do all this cool stuff. Maybe she sees like her own future in him, not like with him, but just like, oh, that's kind of an ideal fantasy for her. She could in her senior year of college.
Yeah, when he's in med school and he's too busy, he'll pass the torch and she'll be the leader.
When he's a doctor, he'll change all the policies.
Like, so pitiful, though. It was like such a pathetic move. I was so disappointed in her because she did have such strength, and she was, sisters be doing it for themselves kind of vibe the whole time.
We're not there yet.
The first thing she does is fucking turn around and kiss this moron. I'm like,
yeah,
but I guess that's part of the process.
We all make mistakes. Yeah, we kiss a lot of frogs along the way.
Everyone's had a Greg.
Oh yeah. So after she kisses him, they're both surprised. So after she kisses him, she says, we should go tell everyone else. So Felicity gets on the megaphone and says, thanks to everyone, especially Julie Emmerich. Like, yeah, not Greg. They caved. Good. And everyone cheers and hugs, and they're all excited they won. And Greg comes up to her as oh, hug. But then thankfully Sean picks Felicity up and is like championing her over his shoulder, which is such a good moment, and in the future intro. And I just think about the future intro whenever I see that scene. And yeah, everyone's so excited. Berkey passes by Greg and says, she kissed you, didn't she? I can see it all over your face. He's like, unbelievable. I do all the cooking and you end up with the cake. That was a funny analogy.
Not that she owed Berkey anything.
No, of course.
I was offended for him,
the analogy
too.
was funny. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just like, really? Like, he brought in a fuckload of people, which is probably what helped get some attention too. Like a big ass crowd on the news versus like a handful of people, all that stuff. I was like, seriously, like, get your shit together, girl. But that's
everyone there did more than Greg. Like that's it.
That's facts. That's facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then Berkey tells Megan, Felicity and Greg, can you believe that? And Megan says she's gonna kill her.
That was good.
Oh, so even at the end here, just really great comedic moments from almost every character this episode. So yeah, Felicity and everyone just are dancing and they're celebrating, and that was the end of that. And one of my favorite episodes. Again, I thought like this is what I imagined college would be like after watching the show in middle school, and that's everything I hoped it would be. Like, oh, you're camping out in sleeping bags for a cause you believe in, and then you win and you change the world. Just, yeah, loved it. And I also think that she, again, like asserts her independence with her dad. She stands up for what she believes in. And as we said before, like she's putting her Badinsky tendencies to good use, finally, not like cheating and changing someone's essay English paper, but like actually doing good.
Let's forget about that. That's rough.
Unfortunately, though, it's crazy that 25 years later, we're still fighting for this shit. I think that was this time around the really, really sad part of rewatching this episode.
Yeah, now more than ever.
Yep.
Devastating.
Like 5-10 years ago, I was like, the 90s, the 2000s, they had to fight for that. And I'm like,
those fools.
We're back there again. And so I actually wanted to look it up because we were talking about Ruby's abortion episode, or her non-abortion, but you know, her thinking about it and being surprised at the health center you could even schedule abortions. Again, I'm like, you won't give out the morning after pill, but you'll perform abortions at the health center. Like, make sense.
That's
right.
Great plot hole.
But so again, like I wanted to look up on like today even how many universities provide contraception, and so I actually looked it up, and a 2024 study found that emergency contraception was available at approximately 1/3 of colleges and universities, and this was just in North Carolina though, this study. So it was a very quick scan. I didn't, go in all the medical research everywhere, but even just a year ago
Probably
in the
lower
state
now.
of North Carolina, only a third. Obviously, religious institutions aren't going to, they don't have to, but that was low. I thought that was really low.
Yeah. And that might be even earlier, though, because if the study came out in 2024,
that's true.
Research may have taken place for a little bit before that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I have a feeling that number's lower in 2025.
And in a different state. Like, North Carolina is probably purple-ish, so I'm sure in some other states it's even lower than that.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So, yeah.
What a
that
world.
I think was the only other thing rewatching this episode that has changed.
It was a bit painful.
Yeah, I think it's weird on every rewatch how my reaction changes. 5 years ago, I would have thought nothing about it, and now I'm like, I can't believe we're here again.
Well,
so
Heather,
the
get your sleeping bag and get out there, girl.
You're right.
Get out there.
I've been to my women's marches, but
start printing out flyers to hand out.
Yes, I need to find Berkey, and we'll go out there and pound the pavement. We will not be moved.
Aw, that was like such a cliche, but I still loved it.
No, but that's the thing. It's like that's what I thought of. Yeah.
No, I know. Like that's such a great moment. I'll
and
never
them
tire of
talking
seeing
about
that
the
kind of thing.
sit-ins and like putting the flowers and guns. Like they were picturing.
That was their.
So to me, it's.
I get that. Yeah.
Lots of parallels. Yeah. So
Beautiful.
yeah, I guess donate to Planned Parenthood if you can. Go hit the streets if you can. But yeah, it sucks. But love the episode.
Yeah, it sucks.
Oh man. Well, it's been great laughing and chatting about this episode though. Like I said, it is one of my top from the season. I probably rated it a little higher than most people in our March Madness, but it was so so funny, so many good one-liners. Everyone stood out. It only lacked Richard, but Berkey kind of filled that like hijinks crazy role, but yeah, we just needed Richard too, and it would have been perfection.
Yes.
Any final thoughts?
No,
I pretty much talked the whole episode because I loved it so much. So,
Faddest fun moment, probably his little flirtation with Javier. That was the best. Yeah.
Yes, his flirtation, not Javier's flirtation. Yeah. That is classic. Alrighty, well, start a revolution. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Felicity Was Here is produced, written, and edited by Heather, Melissa, and Dr. Joe.
You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Felicity Was Here Pod. If you're enjoying the pod, please leave us a review and help us spread the word. We appreciate you and would love to hear from Felicity superfans like us. So send us your feedback, ask us your burning questions, or just say hey at felicitywasherepod@gmail.com. We may even read your note in a future episode.